Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. My name is Keith Wilson. I'm a lawyer with the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. As some of you may know, there was an announcement earlier today that the Justice Center and a team of lawyers are here on the ground in Ottawa to assist the truckers and the Freedom Convoy 2022 with whatever legal needs they might have. What we're going to do today in this brief press conference is you're going to hear from Tamara Lich, who we all know is the spark that lit this fire and the leader of this organization. You're also going to hear from Jonni Peltier, who is going to summarize in French what Tamara says. And then Danny Bulford, former RCMP officer, who assists the organizers with security and liaison with the police, will speak and update you on some of those things. At the end, there will only be questions to me, and those questions will be related, if you have any, to the situation with GoFundMe, and I can answer those questions. So with that, I should also note that with Tamara is Chris Barber, one of the key leaders of the Freedom Convoy 2022. So with that, I'd ask Tamara to come forward and make her statement. Thank you.
Thank you. I always have this problem with microphones, sorry. Thank you very much for being here today. We are here out of love for our families, our communities, and our nation. These past 2 years, the COVID mandates have divided us. This protest began because of the federal government's restrictions on trucker freedoms. Our movement has grown in Canada and across the world because common people are tired of the mandates and restrictions in their own lives. Our movement has grown in Canada and across the world because common people are tired of the mandates and restrictions in their lives that now seem to be doing more harm than good. As of today, Sweden, Denmark, UK, Norway, Finland, Ireland, and Switzerland have removed all COVID mandates and restrictions. We are therefore calling on all levels of government in Canada to end all COVID mandates and restrictions. We will continue our protest until we see a clear plan for their elimination. Premier Scott Moe of Saskatchewan has taken leadership in Canada in ending restrictions and mandates in that province. Hopefully, these words will turn into long-lasting action. So far, no one from the federal, provincial, or municipal government has spoken directly with us. Instead, they are using you, the media, to portray us as racists, misogynists, and even terrorists. As a woman with Métis heritage, a mother, and a grandmother, I am offended. The reality is that members of this freedom movement are average, peace-loving, and law-abiding citizens from all walks of life who are fed up with being disrespected and bullied by our government. We continue to see additional Canadians coming to Ottawa every day for peaceful demonstrations. We want to thank the hundreds of residents of Ottawa who have stepped forward to show their support, providing accommodations, food, and just plain friendship to members of our convoy. This love of community is what Canada is all about. Let me assure the people of Ottawa that we have no intent to stay one day longer than necessary. Our departure will be based on the Prime Minister doing what is right, ending all mandates and restrictions on our freedoms. We also want to thank the thousands of people who have so generously donated to this protest to GoFundMe. Over the last 3 days, our accountants and lawyers have been working hard to deal with the legal details. This morning, our lawyers sent GoFundMe all the details that they have asked for. I am confident that GoFundMe now has all the information needed to immediately lift the suspension they put on our campaign. I am hoping to hear from GoFundMe soon so that we can get the money to the truckers and keep our protest for freedom moving forward. I will be providing regular updates. I want to thank all Canadians from the bottom of my heart for our quest to restore our freedoms. Thank you.
Bonjour à tous, merci d'être présents. Jonni Peltier. Nous sommes ici aujourd'hui par amour pour nos familles, nos enfants, nos petits-enfants, nos communautés et notre nation. Ces 2 dernières années, les mandats COVID-19 nous ont divisés. Cette manifestation a commencé en raison des restrictions du gouvernement fédéral sur la liberté des camionneurs. Notre mouvement s'est développé au Canada et dans le monde entier, parce que les gens ordinaires en ont assez des mandats et des restrictions dans leur propre vie qui semblent maintenant faire plus de mal que de bien. À ce jour, la Suède, le Danemark, le Royaume-Uni, la Norvège, la Finlande, l'Irlande et la Suisse ont supprimé tous les mandats et restrictions COVID-19. Nous demandons donc à tous les niveaux du gouvernement du Canada de mettre fin à tous les mandats et restrictions du COVID. Nous continuerons notre protestation jusqu'à ce que nous voyions un plan clair pour leur élimination. Le premier ministre Scott Moe de la Saskatchewan a pris le leadership au Canada en mettant fin aux restrictions et aux mandats dans cette province. Espérons que ces paroles se transformeront en actions durables. Jusqu'à présent, personne du gouvernement fédéral, provincial ou municipal ne nous a parlé directement. Au lieu de cela, ils vous utilisent, vous les médias, pour nous présenter comme des racistes, des misogynes et même des terroristes. La réalité est que les membres de ce mouvement de liberté sont des citoyens moyens, épris de paix et respectueux des lois de tous les horizons qui en ont assez d'être méprisés et intimidés par le gouvernement. Nous continuons de voir de nouveaux Canadiens venir à Ottawa chaque jour pour des manifestations pacifiques. Nous tenons à remercier les centaines de résidents d'Ottawa qui se sont manifestés pour montrer leur soutien en offrant un hébergement, de la nourriture et tout simplement de l'amitié aux membres de notre convoi. Cet amour de la communauté est la raison d'être du Canada. Permettez-moi d'assurer aux gens d'Ottawa que nous n'avons pas l'intention de rester un jour de plus que nécessaire. Notre départ sera basé sur le premier ministre à faire ce qui est bien juste, qui est de mettre fin à tous les mandats et restrictions de nos libertés. Nous tenons également à remercier les milliers de personnes qui ont si généreusement donné pour ce mouvement à GoFundMe. Au cours des 3 derniers jours, nos comptables et avocats ont travaillé dur pour régler les détails juridiques. Ce matin, nos avocats ont envoyé à GoFundMe tous les détails qu'ils nous ont demandés. Nous sommes convaincus que GoFundMe dispose désormais de toutes les informations nécessaires pour lever immédiatement la suspension qu'ils ont imposée à notre campagne. J'espère avoir des nouvelles de GoFundMe bientôt afin que nous puissions acheminer l'argent aux camionneurs et faire avancer notre protestation pour la liberté. Nous fournirons des mises à jour régulières. Je tiens à remercier tous les Canadiens du fond du cœur, sincèrement, pour notre quête visant à rétablir notre liberté. Merci.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Bulford. I am a recently resigned member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police after 15 years of service. I resigned from the RCMP over the mandate after publicly speaking opposing the mandates. I am currently working with the Adopt a Trucker Volunteer Coordination Center in support of the Freedom Convoy 2022. I have extensive experience in protective operations for large-scale events here in the National Capital Region. I've been involved in tactical planning for many of these large-scale events, so I'm keenly familiar with what is happening right now in regards to the police presence down around Parliament Hill and the downtown core. So on that, I would like to just put people's minds at ease, the public that is watching, people that have concerns over what they're seeing in regards to the heavy police presence, all the different police services, different units, the barricades, and some of the equipment that people have seen. I can assure you that that is all standard practice, and it's no reason for panic. Anytime we have a massive event such as this, such as Canada Day, downtown Ottawa, that's the norm. So it's no. We have been working closely with the Ottawa Police Service, the OPP, the RCMP, and the Parliamentary Protective Service, right from early last week, liaising with them. Any information that we have received related to any public safety concern has been immediately forwarded to the respective police services, because the safety of the truckers, the Ottawa public, the police, and first responders is our paramount concern. And that includes our effort to ensure emergency vehicle access and routes at all times. My primary concern is individuals or groups with potential to deliberately instigate conflict with the Freedom Convoy movement in order to discredit the Freedom Convoy 2022. We've seen circulating messaging in the media and social media about people associated to the Freedom Convoy 2022 being arrested and charged. I have it on very reliable information that people from the movement were not associated, and that offenses related to property damage and just an assault this morning committed by agitators were witnessed and reported by a trucker and one of our volunteer security personnel, which was reported to the police and handled by the Ottawa Police Service. What I have seen with my own eyes on the odd break that I get are truckers and supporters of the movement feeding the homeless for free right on Wellington, filling their backpacks. Truckers taking a whole trailer full of food down to the homeless shelter. Maintaining cleanliness of city streets, including picking up discarded masks all over the ground that we've come to see. Centralized garbage collection. Shoveling snow at the War Memorial and the Terry Fox statue, decorating those two locations and providing security for those two locations. I've even seen people have tents set up right by Terry Fox in order to protect that statue. And I expect that that level of commitment to the City of Ottawa and respecting our traditions in this country is just getting started. Thank you for your time.
With that, I'm prepared to answer a few questions with respect to the GoFundMe. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, the Prime Minister says he won't meet with this group, and even if he was willing to do that, he can't accede to most of the demands you're making about mandates that are enforced or put in place by provincial governments. People in this town are terrified, they're fed up, they're tired of the noise, blaring horns late at night and early morning, the harassment of people on the streets. They all want to know, when are you going to go home?
Well, as you just heard, Tamara Lich has answered that question.
No,
She answered it twice in her statement, and you will have an opportunity to review that. Is there a question relating to GoFundMe? Go ahead, sir.
With the GoFundMe, we've chatted with a number of drivers. I've heard reports of guys that are already where there's money being distributed to truckers regarding focusing on fuel. I've heard from a couple people. I've also heard from some truckers that they don't know how to access it. Just wondering if you can clarify for people wondering how the money will be disseminated, and has money already started reaching truckers who have made their way here?
The bulk of the money is continuing to be held by GoFundMe. GoFundMe, because they were bombarded with an orchestrated social media and other campaign to try and shut it down or take it, has exercised heightened due diligence, which we welcome. And I can tell you that on Monday, we took the steps to incorporate, on behalf of the Freedom Convoy organization, a not-for-profit Canada corporation. We've taken steps to establish the appropriate banking and other arrangements, and all of the funds that have not yet made it to that bank account are being held in trust for the benefit of the movement. And we have an accountant involved, we have lawyers involved, all of the legal and accounting checkbox have occurred. There's audit procedures and so on in place, which will allow GoFundMe to flow the funds that so many have donated.
What's the part of the American money
once we reach the point where GoFundMe has released the funds, the corporate lawyer experts on the team, as well as the accountants, are currently refining the process for truckers and others who have been involved in the convoy and are here now to be reimbursed, and we will be communicating that to them so that they can make claims.
What's the
Is
point
there
of
any-
the American money in there
What do
or
you have to
foreign
say to
money?
the Ottawa resident? What do you have to say to this
So-
guy? To this guy we saw him today?
Thank you very much for coming.
So what do
I
you
have a question about the funding, sir. Mr. Wilson, another question about the funding. Ms. Lee, Tamara Lich, are you still accepting donations to
I know
a
if
bank
I know what
account?
part of the foreign money is in there.
Lich, you're still accepting donations to your personal
Maybe it's
account?
all foreign money, is that what you said?
Everybody, may be very, very, very cautious here. Let's just wait. Let everybody get out. There's no firearms. There's no firearms. Okay. All right, everybody, let's make this orderly. Okay? Let's make this orderly. If you have any questions of anybody, you can ask those questions outside. Okay? This conference is wrapped.
Good job, Randall.
This conference is wrapped.
Awesome.
You're live right now, though?
I'm live.
Ah, excellent. Big comment for what the experience was like?
Yeah, I think that was amazing. You can see that anyone you look around and they have a mask on, what are they hiding? Right? That's what you know about people wearing masks. And very interesting that it's very exotic. Oh, the harassment of the people on the street. There's been no harassment of people on the street. The military, from what I just heard on CBC, are not going to be cooperating, and therefore, Aaron, would you mind coming and grabbing this? From what I heard this morning, the military are not going to be coming in and getting involved. I see that the police, the RCMP, of course, we just saw Daniel, a retired RCMP member who was on the detail for Trudeau himself. He was a sniper and on detail for Trudeau, has resigned over these mandates, and there is no basis at all to think that there is anyone being harmed on the streets. Personally, me and my friends walking down the streets laughing. I've seen dance parties. I've seen a lot of signs that had hearts on them. I've seen a lot of things that say love, but I have not seen any danger down here, no harassment. The truckers have agreed to not play their horns from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at night to 8 a.m. in the morning. This morning, I didn't even get one horn sound till about 9, and I was kind of upset about it because I like the shofar going off. This is a ground level war. Nobody's going anywhere until this is done. People are staying. In fact, more people are now coming to Ottawa, and we appreciate that the Marriott actually is extending our stays here. We appreciate that we're getting good service, and we thank everybody for supporting us and for being here. Thank you, everyone.
When the mandates are over, when the public health decrees are over, that's when we leave. We don't leave before that. You understand that? That's how it works. That's the way it works. It does not. Nobody leaves here until the country is opened up. The country needs to be opened up. I'm a Canadian citizen, here as a patriot, fighting for the truckers.
That's
My
right.
name is Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Where are you from? That don't work because of you.
That don't work. You're not. We need to open up the country. We need to open up the country so people can work.
We're not leaving.
We see Randy Hillier in there.
I come from Belfort.
We see Jim.
I'm not leaving.
They've been closed for 2 years.
Recording.
Children are missing
recording, right?
There's the appointments. Ask the Prime Minister why he's locked down the children. Why are kids masked? They're creating psychological damage. The children are being damaged by the Prime Minister
How many
and his
cancer
mandates
appointments,
and
yes.
the Premier. Doug Ford. Doug Ford is creating the mental health issues with children. That's the reality. Let's get a reality check here, guys. You don't mask children. This is a crime. You don't vaccinate children that don't need it. It's a crime. Tone down? I'm not going to tone down. You guys are criminals. You guys are. This government is a criminal. You guys are harming the children.
Speak it, Jim.
Decades of harm that's
Speak
going to
it.
be happening to children
Jim, what's
because
your
of
last
all
name?
of you.
What's your last name, Jim?
Jim, what's your last name?
Go Jim! Go Jim!
Jim, okay.
Just Jim.
Anybody knows his last name? What's his last name, Mr. Hilliard?
Gymnastic.
We often call him Jungle Jim.
Jungle Jim. Good.
Mr. Hilliard, do you want to speak up a bit on what you heard here today?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I've been here since Friday.
Yes, absolutely. So, but what you're hearing here today is it, Mr. Hilliard, and you've been present talking to a lot of people on the ground here. You see a bit of frustration on maybe this side, this speaker, but the residents a bit as well. So what do you say on that?
It's because everybody's talking past one another. And everybody's been talking past one another for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Nobody's listening to each other. Nobody's taking into account honest, legitimate, and justified concerns. You know, that's been the problem since March of 2020. It's been exasperated. It's been amplified by our politicians, and I'll have to say it's also been amplified and exasperated by the media. So it's time. We should recognize a great number of Canadians have said these measures are no longer warranted.
You know what, you guys? You
Jim's back.
what's going on?
Jim's back.
They're no longer justified. There was a time of uncertainty and unknowns back in March of 2020, but there are no more unknowns. We have known unknowns.
So clearly you're planning to stay here how many days, weeks?
We will be staying here. The stamina and the resolve of these people. You know, Canada was built on a foundation, an ethical, moral foundation of freedom.
Trudeau won't move.
What can the federal do?
We don't care if Trudeau does move. He's hiding in his cottage. Real Canadians, honest Canadians, are out here in the streets and they're saying, we've had enough of your bullshit. Okay? We've had enough of your fear. We've had enough of your misinformation and lies. We've had enough of your propaganda of scaring people and the narrative of danger. And we're saying it's time that we go back to living our lives like free, faithful Canadians.
What makes you think that things are going to change right now because you are in the streets since 7 days now?
Listen, we know we're helping to organize a few hundred farm tractors are coming in. So
This weekend?
This weekend. The farm tractors are coming into Ottawa this weekend.
From which?
From all around the area.
Okay.
We know that there's a convoy moving into the Winnipeg legislature and will be shutting down much of Winnipeg. We know that there's a border closure out in Alberta. We also know there's more convoys into Edmonton. This is going to continue. And this is what the political class need to realize. This is not the end. We haven't made our point yet. Okay? If we have made our point, then the mandates would be over. Okay? Until the mandates are over, we have not made our point. And we're going to continue to make our point. Make people see the evidence and the facts. You know, here we are.
Dr. Paul Alexander, can you comment on the VAERS report and the safety of these vaccines? Dr. Paul Alexander, a very educated, esteemed, and knowledgeable doctor.
Well, let me just follow up on what Mr. Hilliard was
Oh,
saying.
look what the mainstream media does. When a doctor begins to speak, y'all check out.
I'm speaking as an academic scientist, and look, here's the issue. I'm going to just talk about the science and what is at front right now. The data is clear across the world that there's no difference between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated person. And to have mandates at this point is illogical and nonsensical. And I think the public health authorities in Canada, they've been flat wrong on this. And it is time that the society opens. It is time that we declare the pandemic emergency over, because we have the data from Scotland, from UK, from Finland, from Denmark, etc., from the US, showing us that it is actually the vaccinated person who is at risk of super infection and actually transmitting. So I think the premise that the trucker coming in on the border is who is unvaccinated should be constrained from making a living in Canada is actually flat wrong. And the Public Health Agency of Canada is wrong on this. Health Canada is wrong on this. And this is the data. This is the science. And I would like them to consider what is happening here. I've been on the floor, and this has been a very peaceful, very loving situation. The truckers have been doing a good job helping the society also. And in terms of the mandates have no medical, scientific basis. Absolutely zero.
Is it true there's over 22,000 deaths on the VAERS report? People have died after receiving the vaccine, including 300 children.
Well, in the United States, the CDC runs a database called the VAERS database, and it has collected data so far. It captures only 1% to 10%. So we know there's tremendous underreporting. And so far it logs 22,000 deaths from the vaccine, about 1 to 2 days post-vaccine, and about 1 million adverse events. That's in the US. In the UK, across Europe, the Vigilance system also logs about 30 to 40,000 deaths and 2 million adverse events that are happening 1 to 2 days post-vaccine. So there is a serious problem with this vaccine. The vaccine appears to work well for a large number of persons. But we have to be honest here, the vaccine does not work well for another segment of society, because there are people who've been harmed, and there are people who have died from these vaccines. And we are also calling for a proper understanding of the safety.
Thank you, Dr. Paul Alexander. Tell me something. Media, is it not important that 300 kids have died after getting these vaccines? Is it not important? Because this is going out to an awful lot of people. Is it not important for CTV, CBC, and Global to report the harms that are happening? I bet every one of you know someone who's been harmed by these vaccines, yet you remain silent and complicit. How many boosters until you're on the same side as these truckers? How many boosters, everybody? You come here and you report this, but you don't report the truth. You try to report small crowds. You try to report that this is a dangerous bunch of people when we're actually saving lives.
Thanks, bye.
When will it matter to you? Will your child have to be harmed? How many boosters? Cowards!
Communists.
Got your shot?
Yes, sir. Where are you from?
I'm from here, Ottawa.
Good.
I'm a reporter in Ottawa.
Yeah, what network?
Our major network. We were here representing everyone. We were doing the pool camera today.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what the pool camera is? Yeah?
No.
For like other media that.
Oh, for other media.
Whoever
Why
wants to
did
use
you
the
not
footage.
grab the data that the public needs to know?
No, well, we did the interview.
Well, you stopped at the point where we're reporting why we're here. There's
Well, now we wanna go
dangers to
speak-
people.
Apparently, there's interesting people to speak to outside, so
Yes.
we just want to make our way
Well,
there.
I ask that your reporters and your footage and the people that are at your, the executives who make the decisions, start warning people. How many boosters do you want to take, sir, that the government mandates you to take? How many? How many till you're on the side of the truckers? That's the question you all, who are complicit, just doing my job.
Yeah, us
Tell
too.
the truth.
Us too.
Shame the devil.
Because when we look at the data today after 2 years, every single policy has failed. There's been no policy, no lockdown policy, no school closure policy that has had any success. And this is a fact. So we cannot have these anymore. And the reality about it is that these governments now have taken so much emergency powers. And what they're doing now is maximally abusing them. And we have to take this back from our governments. We have to do this civilly and peacefully and legally. But it's time. And it is time that everyone involved understand that the pandemic is over. COVID is done. Omicron told you this. Omicron is the exit strategy and the off-ramp. It is time to declare the pandemic emergency over and let people go on with their lives. Let people make independent personal decisions. If the government wants, the government could play a role with public service announcements, vitamin D, body weight control, and all of these issues. But people must be allowed to live their lives.
Dr. Alexander with us. Do you want to spot back in the room? Do you want to go back in the room? Or do you want to over here? Whatever you guys.
Where's Jim, the famous Jim, that nobody shall say his last name?
Yeah.
He said something else was going on.
You could talk about the Bible issue.
Ask him. Tell him.
Could we ask you some questions?
Oh yeah, for sure. But this is going to be Rebel News lead, and he's right there.
United States, Pete, what's going on right now, so if you want to maybe ask some questions, use your phone. Maybe Alexa, if you want to ask Roy Bayer, who's Taking Back Our Freedoms. Brian Peckford is the chairman of Taking Back Our Freedoms, and they're all part of this as well. You might want to ask Roy some questions. The instrumental and everything that's been going on. Okay? And this is also being fed into the United States through Fox News and a number of other outlets as well, just so you're aware. Okay.
You ready?
Yes, I'm sorry. Hi. So, well, why?
Roy, yeah, you can. I'm Roy Bayer. So we're Taking Back Our Freedom. So, yeah, and he's on our board of advisors, along with Premier Peckford. So Brian Peckford is the chairman of board of directors for Taking Back Our Freedoms.
Okay.
And of course, this front and center, this is about the charter, the violations of charter rights and freedoms of Canadians that is unwarranted. And Brian would famously say, there has never been an emergency. There is no emergency to justify the suspension of rights and freedoms of Canadians, as we've seen almost these past 2 years. This is a fundamental, common sense freedom and rights issue. And so we put together an organization called Taking Back Our Freedoms with a board of advisors that consists of people like Dr. Paul Alexander, Byron Bridle, and other doctors. Julie Piness, of course, and just look at the board of advisors, tbof.ca, and these people have a strong voice. They're highly qualified, and it's time now to take back our freedoms in Canada. So very proud to introduce one of the top doctors in Canada, Dr. Paul Alexander.
So, hi.
Hi.
Thanks for your time.
Yes, thanks for having me. And I'm speaking this morning as an academic scientist. Very, very privileged to speak to Rebel News.
And what did you try to do today at the press conference before everybody wrapped up?
Well, I think the leader of this movement, Tamara, she has solicited legal support, which I think is prudent at this point. They're having some problems with the funding. The Canadian people have been very gracious and have reached out and given a lot of money. And the organization that they sent money to, I think it was GoFundMe, there have been some restrictions, and I think they have held the money, etc., which is very problematical. So they're now trying to get that money released because that belongs to the truckers. That's the Canadian people gave that money to the truckers. Truckers need that money to put gas in their trucks, to stay idling because it's very cold, to buy socks, to buy food, to stay here, because the issue is the pandemic is over. And it is time that we declare this emergency over. Particularly these vaccine mandates are, from a scientific point of view, I'm speaking here as a scientist, they're absurd, they're illogical, and there's no basis whatsoever. And to be constraining society and tearing people apart based on vaccine status, when we have over 42 studies we've published, we've brought together in a proper review showing that there's no difference between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated individual. So much so that we have data and research. Ho Chi Minh study out of Vietnam. We have Raimusen in Wisconsin. We have the Barnstable outbreak in Massachusetts, Brown et al. Showed us that there's no difference between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated as the viral load and the propensity to transmit. So why would you tell an unvaccinated trucker coming in to Canada to make a living that they cannot come when they're no different than the vaccinated person? So it makes absolutely no sense, and it's actually suffering these people. And look, I'll tell you something that was shocking to me. I went out onto the street with Hodgkinson and some other scientists, and we were interviewing truckers. We were supposed to go and deliver food and fuel. I had the opportunity to talk to some truckers. You stand up inside these trucks and you look inside, and what shocks you when you see one of those truck drivers, male or female, I met some strong female truck captains, is inside that cabin often has 1 or 2 little kids. When you see those trucks, when we see those trucks sitting on out there, take the time and get them to open the door, and you climb into that truck. In that cabin has a wife often with 1 or 2 little children sitting there, or the husband. It means that that truck, that is their entire life. Inside that truck, they are moving with them.
And if nothing go to change, how you will be able to go further?
When you say if nothing changes, I mean, Tamara and this organization, they've coalesced so well, and they're making a very, very serious statement and a strong stance. And my understanding is they are not going to recoil or pull back until what they are asking for, which is not, they're not holding any thing over the head of any one government. They are saying we just want our freedoms back. We want the mandates dropped so that we can live freely in society, because there's no basis for this. Look, people, some truckers have told me the last $5 in their pocket right now, this tank of gas that they're idling is the only gas that they have. So many of them have no other alternative. I would ask Roy to answer that.
Again, can you repeat the question?
Yeah.
I say if ever Mr. Trudeau doesn't want to end up anything, he doesn't want to change his mind, how you will be able to process to go further?
But we want to speak to him. We want to debate as scientists. We want to sit down and ask them for the science. As part of what we're doing now, we're negotiating. We want Tam and Nu to sit down with us, the top scientists, show us what is the evidence you have to mandate what you're doing to Canada still. We're going to show you the global science so we can discuss this, because they have none. As a scientist, I can tell you, there's no basis for what Health Canada, Public Health Agency, nor the provincial government under Doug Ford, any of them are doing. It is flat wrong. They have absolutely no basis for this.
Yeah, and of course, it's ironic, but the doctors are telling you the truth, and the truckers know the truth, and it just, the Prime Minister of Canada and the politicians of the elites have to catch up with the truth. The truth is there's no basis to continue on with any of the mandates. The emergencies need to be ended. The mandates need to be stopped. Do exactly like they've done in the UK and a dozen other countries now. Catch up with the science, stop the nonsense, and the mandates. And so that's the truckers' position, which aligns with the scientists. And just the politicians need to catch up with the truth.
And we are here to provide the truckers that scientific underpinning so that they could make their stand. And principally, we are here. I've been on the Hill talking, delivering speeches, trying to reach the Canadian people, because the argument to the Canadian people is you need to hold firm. And I'm pleading with the Canadian people, hold firm, stand by the truckers. They will take this home. They will wage this battle for the rest of Canada. And we argue for the world, because we needed somebody. We needed the trucker getting their fingernails dirty, standing up for the first time. Whilst doctors in Canada and the US, scientists in Canada and the US have been silent, they have not stood up. It's actually shameful what they have done. Now these truckers have said enough. They want their freedom, and if they win this, and I believe they will, it will benefit everyone in Canada and probably the rest of the world.
So right now at one of the border with the US, we can see some convoy that they are blocked there. They're blocking the border. Right now the RCMP asked them to leave, or they will have fine and other legal procedure. So if it's happening here, are you going to stay same if the RCMP would ask you or police force you to leave? Are you going to comply, or you would stay until whatever happens?
That's a question for the truckers, for Tamara. I'll let her speak for herself. I do know that a lot of the protests we're seeing are more spontaneous. Nobody's centrally organized the protest at the Alberta border. It's just a spontaneous response to what the Ottawa truckers are doing, and I expect we'll see a lot more of that across Canada, but that's not centrally organized. I just know here in Ottawa, Tamara and the rest of the truckers have said, we're here until the mandates come to an end, and I totally respect that, and we're here to support that.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you very much.
What's your name?
Roy Beyer, B-E-Y-E-R. I'm executive director with the Take Back Our Freedoms, but the real heroes with our organization are our board of advisors. We see right here an example, Dr. Alexander and many others.
And we
How do you spell your first name?
Roy,
Okay, everyone. Jim, was something else going on?
This is not top-down organized. This is grassroots. So I saw
All right, everyone. People are clearing the floor. Yeah. Would you just hold that for a moment? Okay. So just explain to everyone what happened. Basically, Tamara and the lawyers wanted to explain about the measures that they're taking in order to release the funds. And you can see that it's a very volatile thing. I'll tell you what happened today is that the independent media and the media were all in a respected scrum together. And you saw that the media, they didn't really want, when real information starts coming out, they just want to pack up their bags. What are they in such a hurry for? So when you start asking real questions about the harms, why CTV, CBC, and Global are not reporting on factual VAERS numbers, Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. Do you think if most Canadians had that information given to them on a daily basis from our media, media platforms in Canada, the ones that are going in front of the public every night with lies and deception, lies by omission, do you think they would be wanting to vaccinate their children? I don't think so. They don't have the information. So the mainstream media is culpable in the deaths of thousands of people, not just through the misinformation they spread around with COVID, but also about the vaccine adverse events. That's what's happening. And today, we saw something pretty historically interesting. We saw mainstream media and independent media in the same scrum, and then after they took down their cameras, there was an exchange. I was one of those exchanges, but they need to be held accountable. So we're gonna go out onto the street today and meet the real people, show you what's really happening. Thank you everyone for all your support to help us to be here. We do believe that God's got our back. And in this coup d'etat against God, we know he wins. God bless.